Hey Cardinal fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Cardinal Game Day, your home for UIW Cardinal football, news, reviews, and pregame. My name is Rory.
And I'm Reyes. Rory, it was a bit of a rough weekend this past week at home.
Look, losing the home opener, never a great situation, but the Cardinals will be looking to bounce back when they road trip out to Nacogdoches, Texas this weekend and play the SFA Lumberjacks.
Back to the Sacramento State game, however, I think we started out pretty well. There could have been some positives that can be drawn from that game.
We started very well. Offensively, we were moving the ball well. Trent was getting into his groove a bit, and he was putting up some pretty good yards. 4 rushes for 25 yards, 3 out of 5 passes for 46 yards. Unfortunately, that injury towards the end of the first quarter was a bit of a loss, but yeah, there were definitely flashes of brilliance.
Exactly. You look here at Casey Jennings' numbers: 4 receptions for 45 yards, averaging 111 yards. With the long of 19, so Casey Jennings was also benefiting from that Trent Britton when he was in the game. But when he did get injured, you see here that the offensive play calling kind of shifted just a little bit, and Joseph Sadler got more involved also with the running backs. He rushed 6 times at 39 yards. He also even threw a pass. And
then, of course, you got to remember that he actually was on the receiving end of that one touchdown we scored, the 49-yard pass up the middle from Taylor Woods. So Joseph Sadler, coming off his redshirt year, looking pretty good.
Pretty good. He also has a lot of speed back there in the backfield for the Cardinals, so expect him to really take off in these next couple of these weeks, and see him more as a flex. So Wes Welker comparisons maybe drawn here with Joseph Sadler.
Possibly.
Defensively, we saw some flashes of brilliance, but also a number of things need to be worked on.
Yeah, look, Peyton Giebler picked up where he left off last season, 8 tackles. Jerome McElroy got 7 tackles as well. I'd like to stress that big man, Corey Lee, in the middle, defensive line, 2 sacks, and for a loss of 13 yards. So Corey Lee had a pretty good game.
Getting back there in the backfield, really making some plays. Also making some plays on that Cardinal secondary was Adrian Norwood. Came into the game, got 1 pick, which really kind of did change the game for that moment. You thought that's when the Cardinals were going to get on a roll. However, things just didn't fall their way that day.
Yeah, and then look, I'd say the big story of the game for the Cardinals was the new punter kicker, Ramon Cotto Jr. He came in and he kicked 2 out of 2 field goals with a 49-yard long, which is a Benson Stadium record. And look, it's his first game of college football ever as a freshman. He was named the Southland Conference Special Teams Player of the Week, and he was also named the College Football Performance Awards Place Kicker of the Week for the whole of Division I. So big things coming out of Ramon Cotto Jr., good things to look forward to. But look, as for Sacramento State, apart from the early 3 and out, they were looking very good all day.
Exactly. Look here, Garrett Saffron, 17 for 25, 251 yards, 5 touchdown passes, and did throw that 1 pick to Norwood.
Yeah, but look, and then the 2 receivers, Nnamdi Agude and DeAndre Carter, they each had 2 receiving touchdowns. And you look at some of the receptions on the film here, and there were some crazy passes and catches. Saffron was really on his game, and his receivers were loving it.
Exactly. I mean, Carter, 56 yards off 3 receptions. Good. 11 yards off 6 receptions. You can see that really is could be considered some of the game changers that we saw throughout the game, because there were a couple of plays where the game really did seem to turn.
Yeah, look, 1 minute 39 left on the clock in the first quarter. The score is UIW 6, Sacramento State 7. And they managed to block the punt of Ramon Cotto. They recover the football deep into Cardinal territory. They managed to score on that play. And then on the ensuing kickoff, the ball bounces in sort of behind the front wall before the return men in that little pocket on the sideline. It takes a Sacramento State bounce and they recover it, and then 2 plays later they score again. So before the end of the first quarter, you've lost your starting quarterback, and you've now conceded 14 points in about 20 seconds. And the score is now 6-21. I just don't think that the Cardinals really recovered from that.
I mean, if you could think about it, it's basically an avalanche on the football field. One thing the snowball turns into a bigger snowball, and the snowball just keeps running along, and there goes the entire game plan.
But yeah, look, UIW's next game will be on the road, as we said, against Stephen F. Austin. The SFA Lumberjacks played pretty well in a loss to the FBS number 20 ranked Kansas State. The game's final score was Kansas State 55, SFA 16. So SFA is looking pretty good. Last year they managed to finish 3-9 with a 1-6 record in the Southland Conference, and they were polled to finish 6th in the Southland by both the head coaches and the sports information directors. But looking at this film, I think that they might have been a little bit underrated.
Yeah, exactly. When you have two quarterbacks going for at least 100 yards in Kansas State against the number 20 team, there is some success there to be had. They're coming on. This is their first Southland Conference game versus the Cardinals ever. Didn't play them last year. So it's going to be kind of interesting.
But in saying that, there will be a little bit of familiarity. Clint Conk, first-year head coach of SFA, was the head coach of Central Arkansas when the Cardinals played him last year.
Exactly. So, and this team did go to the playoffs last year in the FCS. Just want to correct that. They went last year.
Yeah.
Not 3-9 record, 1-6.
Yeah.
So, you want to excuse me for that.
But look, they had one in particular receiver, Aaron Thomas, 6 receptions for 85 yards. There's definitely some strength there. And as I said, if you go in as an FCS team and you play the number 20 ranked team in the FBS at their home stadium and you still manage to put up 16 yards, and you look at some of these plays and they played really, really well. Yeah,
Joe Minton, the backup quarterback, came in the game 7 for 9, 102. He also had that one move where he juked out that Kansas State defender. So you can see a lot from them. Might be starting this week. We'll see who gets the nod on Saturday in Nacogdoches.
So knowing what we know about how UAW played against Sac State last week, and from what we've seen in the SFA Kansas State game, what do you see as the keys to victory?
Well, I'm going to go on the defensive side here, and I'm going to go ahead and say the Cardinals' young secondary is really going to have to step up. Darrell Irby did have some plays in that game. You also saw where he did, later in the game, when he was been on the field for about, I'd say, majority of the game, he did get burned a couple of times. However, if they do come out with the right mindset, they do have a lead early on, you can see the Cardinals' defense really being able to get into a rhythm, keep the offense in check, and really contain that air raid attack that the Lumberjacks do feature.
Well, I'm going to focus on the offense here, and from what we see in the film that the Southland Conference put up on YouTube in that highlight package, the defensive line of SFA is no joke. And so I think one of the keys to victory is going to be that the UIW offensive line have a really good game. And especially, Taylor Woods is back under center. He played the majority of the season in 2012, but he didn't get a whole lot of game time last year. So obviously he'll have a lot of practice this week, but sort of readjusting to the quarterback situation. And the running game was a little bit lackluster last week. Joseph Sadler had a reasonable game, but outside of that, there wasn't really a standout. And when you think about the 2013 Cardinals, the run game was really the strength. So offensive line-wise, there's a bit to work on. Obviously, there's going to be the jitters in terms of the new quarterback that hopefully will be ironed out as best as possible before the game. But yeah, the offensive line and the running game.
Okay, I can really see that coming in. Maybe expect some, like you did talk about the offense a little bit, maybe expect some Wildcat Joseph Sadler maybe. You did see him play that flex, did throw a pass, so you want to just keep that in mind.
Stranger things have happened.
Exactly. Well, that's all we have time for today, Cardinal fans. Be sure to check in next week when we break down the SFA game, and look forward to the next game at North Dakota State, who is ranked #1 in the FCS. My name is Chris Reyes.
And I'm Rory. Thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you next week, and as always, let's go Cardinals.